Good morning. Good morning. How you guys doing? I was breastfeeding last night, this morning, depending on where you are. If you're on the East Coast, you almost at 10 o'clock, right? So, how you guys doing? I am Lydia O'Boy, lactation specialist, and I'm a lactation specialist. I'm based here in Los Angeles, where it is a wonderful 50 degrees this morning. We are actually getting a real winter in Los Angeles, in Southern California. So, of course, we don't know how to act. It's traumatizing for us. It's never cold like this. So, we are a bit chilly. We're a bit chilly. So, you can find me all over social media at Lydia O'Boyd, CLE. You can email me, lydia@lydiaoboyd.com. And you can find my website, bit.ly/Lydia's Resources. I provide prenatal, educational, breastfeeding support to families who are expecting, who are actually breastfeeding, who are returning back to work or school after their maternity leave, and who are ending their breastfeeding relationship, whether they are weaning or in the event of a loss. My support comes in-person connections and virtual connections. And those virtual connections can be text messages, phone calls, webinars, teleconferences, here on social media. I do support groups and classes. I am a speaker and a teacher. And so I am that person. If you would like to have an educational component on breastfeeding to maybe your women's group, your health conference, maybe a staff training, you want to start a breastfeeding support group for your business, then I am that person for you. So definitely check me out. We can have a conversation to discuss your needs, and we can put something together to meet your family's unique needs for your busy life. Okay, so what am I talking about today? Today I'm going to share just a little bit about my personal breastfeeding story and how I got into this work. In this work, like I said, providing breastfeeding support. While I help everyone, and my goal is that every baby should get human breast milk, I do have a focus on Black American descendants of U.S. slavery. We have a very unique history, whereas others, especially those coming out of the diaspora, didn't have to travel through the continual racism that America has put out. And while people are like, why are you bringing racism into breastfeeding? Because racism is a structural and institutionalized thing, and it affects every aspect of the lives of those who it's focusing and it's put its heavy foot on. And that's one of the things that when you look back at the history, you can see how it's affected not only how we fed, but how we parented, how we viewed ourselves. And remember, when we hear things like terms like racial health disparities, right? With racial health disparities comes racial feeding disparities. And they are some. And I know for those of you who are like, really, breastfeeding is not a big deal, and you're like, really, what's the big deal? I'm just, feed your baby. If you're going to give formula, if you're going to give formula, if you're going to breastfeed, the breastfeed. I truly wish it was that simple, but it's not. So, I do have a focus. This is where I plan to do the bulk of my education in. But again, the technical piece, I do believe, for the most part, is universal, and a lot of things that we talk about, it's how we manage and how we look at it and how we view it is because we're coming from a different angle. Our lenses are tinted a bit differently. Okay, so that's why the focus is there. However, again, I will help any family that needs it. Okay. regardless of how your family is structured. So just to give you just a little bit of information about me, I know if you follow me, you know that I have a 22-year-old. He is simply beautiful. His name is David, and he's amazing. He's a genius. And David was born at 28 weeks gestation. I was very early in my pregnancy, and he was all of 2 pounds, 6 ounces. We spent 3 months in the hospital. He was born in June. We came home in September. And so 22 years ago, I did not receive the level of support that I provide my families. I didn't have anybody calling and checking on me. I didn't have anybody that I could go on social media and watch their videos. I didn't really have anybody I could talk to about breastfeeding. At that time when I went to WIC, they did have a support group, but I didn't know they had a support group until after my baby came home and I was breastfeeding. Okay, I didn't have the level of support in the hospital that a lot of you have. I did have a lactation consultant who also was the physical therapist, and her focus was really on making sure that David was breathing properly and that the OT and PT therapy was working, and then we just kind of threw in the breastfeeding because I was very vocal about wanting to breastfeed. I pumped like crazy. I stored milk. I even asked about how to get more milk because with all the stress and everything, I felt like my milk supply was decreasing. But I didn't have anybody that told me that I needed to be consistent when pumping. There was days I pumped, there was days I didn't pump. There were some days I pumped on the schedule, and then there were some days I pumped maybe twice a day. No, I didn't have anybody there to actually educate me on how to pump. They just told me, here's the pump, you need to pump. I'll never forget when I had him, and I want to say it was, I think my milk, I finally felt the engorgement about 3 days later. Yeah, because I was in the hospital for 5 days. 3 days. I called for the nurse, and I was like, my boobs are hard, I need to pump. And this wasn't even anything that anybody told me. It was just, I just knew, right? So she came in, she had the pump, she gave me the kit, she put this stuff together like kind of out of my eye view, and then she said, here, pump. She didn't watch me pump. She didn't make sure I was pumping correctly. She didn't make sure that I was aligned correctly in the pump, that my nipple was placed in the right place. Just pump. And so I pumped for maybe 30 minutes, and I only got a little tiny bit, and I was like, what the heck? My boobs were still hard, and I just had this little tiny bit of milk. And then nobody told me that I needed to give the milk right away. So I had a little bit of milk, and I took it down. I don't even know if I had it stored. No, she took it because she came back, and she was like, oh yeah, I guess I need to take this down there. That was 22 years ago. Okay, how I learned to breastfeed, what really helped me was when I was visiting. I found this book in the bookstore, and they don't even print this book anymore. I don't even know what I did with this book. I found this book by this lady who had a preemie baby, and it was supposed to be a mother's guide for premature babies, right? But the bulk of her book, she talked about breastfeeding the preemie, and that became my Bible. I had the what to expect, but I was like, that's not my situation. That's a horrible book. Don't buy that book for me. And I want to say I had another book, but I don't remember it, so it wasn't that important. But that book on prematurity, that was my Bible. I carried that book. I read that book. I looked at the book. I looked at the pictures. I read it like every day. And then when I started reading it every day, I would read it like once a week. And then once David came home and we were doing fine, I would go back and read it maybe like every couple of weeks just to make sure. That's all that I had. Literally, I didn't have anybody helping me. When he came home, I was blessed to have signed up with the Regional Center, which was like a support for special needs children, right? Because he was premature. So they did have a nurse that came out. She didn't help me with breastfeeding at all. At all. You know, unlike now, you have home visitation and they have to have a breastfeeding component, right? No. When he had a respiratory issue, and it actually was a SIDS issue, and we ended up back in the hospital at about 9 months, and I was still breastfeeding. Yeah, 9 months, and I was still breastfeeding. No support. They still brought in formula. It was like, oh, you're giving this. I would walk out and they would have given him a bottle, and I was like, but I'm breastfeeding. So it was a very, very hard for me. I can't speak about anybody else. I can't speak about the wide range. I can tell you what I know from data, right? But this is my story. And for me, looking back, I look back and I want to cry for the mom that I was then, because it was so lonely and there was nobody there, because I didn't know anybody who had a preemie. My friends would call me and say, well, why is he still in the hospital? He's premature. At that time, it was nobody. Subsequently, I remember, because I was still attending church and at that time, and I remember maybe he was about 5, and all these women started having these preemie babies, and then there was all these babies that was in the NICU, and I saw the stuff that was, and I remember being so resentful, because I was like, really? I didn't get that. And so now I understand why some moms, they can be straight haters, because you're seeing all the support and you're like, well, I didn't have that. And so, especially with the new grandmas, and they're like, and they sit back and that's what it is. And it's like, oh, well, so you gonna do that? I didn't do that. Right. Because they still need to be healed from their experience, right? And I will say that my work that I do has given me an amazing opportunity to heal my wounds. But it also, because information is healing. This is why this is this. This is why this is this. And also to understand the structural and institutional barriers that are placed up against moms. And it's all moms, right? And I'm not going to do the all moms matter. How it is, we definitely have a disparity in this country. Let me say that. So for all moms, the medical field, maternal child health, is actually not a friend to breastfeeding. They will want to, and some people will argue with me. I understand, but trust and believe it is not. That's why we call ourselves lactivists, because we have to advocate. We got to fight for a lot of stuff when it comes to breastfeeding. And I mean, I still have to fight with the doctors and stuff about why are we giving this baby this much formula when mom is breastfeeding. That's a whole nother conversation. So it is, and it can be a very lonely thing. Well, it could, back then. And I will say even now, because depending on how your social network is set up, you may be the only one with the preemie baby. You may be the only one breastfeeding. You may be the only one at this particular point in your life, in your village, and your network who's actually having a baby. So, and then when you have, and that's one of the reasons why I always tell people to watch the things that they say. So if you have somebody, right? There's a girl that I know on my Facebook page, and I believe she's a lawyer, and she's pregnant, and this is going to be her rainbow baby, and it looks like she's at a law firm where there's not that many black people, but everybody's not old, but it doesn't look like, and I'm just going by pictures, it just doesn't look like, I didn't see nobody else pregnant. So, and it automatically made me think of when you're in that position and there's not that many people pregnant or trying to get pregnant, and you're by yourself, then you have those people that are just like, you'll be fine. It's really not this big a deal. Especially if they're older people and they've had their kids. And they be like, girl, bye. Real dismissive, like, girl, bye. And it's like, no, don't dismiss me. Wrap your arms around me and, you know, nurture me, take me under your wing, that kind of stuff. And I know some people will say, well, everybody doesn't want that. They have it with their own network. There's a way that you can do it without being imposing, you know? And one of it is, don't do the girl bye thing. And so for when you come over to having a preemie baby, even if that wasn't your experience, you still can be very sympathetic. You can be very empathetic. You can be very compassionate in how you treat this family. And so, because that wasn't something that I always got. Nobody ever called me and said, wow, that must be really hard because now your baby is 6 weeks and your baby's still not home. Your baby's 8 weeks and your baby's still not home. Or when it was the day before, 2 weeks before, it looked like the baby was coming home. Wow, I know you're so excited. How do you feel? How are you feeling? You know, really, how are you feeling? Are you insecure? Are you worried? What are you concerned about? Nobody ever called me for that. Nobody. So now that's one of the reasons why I do this work. Because I said, not on my watch. I would never want a mom that I've come in contact with to have to go through what I went through. You know, when David came home, when he finally came home, he wouldn't latch. It just seemed like all of a sudden he just had a virgin, he just wouldn't latch. And who was there to support me? I didn't breastfeed mother. That's why I always say my mother is my biggest supporter. And she didn't do much because she didn't have nothing to work with. She said, I can't help you. I don't even know where to start, but you can't give up. She was like, Lydia, I'll do whatever you need me to do. I just don't know what to do. So she was like, if I need to call your dad for him to buy something, I will. If I need to take you somewhere, I will. But I don't know where and I don't know what, but you can't give up. And for me at that time, it was enough, because really what I needed to hear was, you can't give up. And I didn't. And I will say within a couple days, we got him on. Actually, that same day, I just kept putting him to the breast. Didn't stop, just kept putting him to the breast. And finally, he latched on. And I think it was probably because he was like, she ain't gonna give me a bottle, so let me go and just take this boob. And I just put him on, and he finally took it. And yeah. So, that's one of the reasons why I speak to the elders. One of the reasons why I speak to the elders, and I speak to some of you who are, in my place where you're not having any more kids, and you are the friend, the auntie, the godmother, the BFF, the co-worker, the lady that sits next to the expected family in church. That's why I speak to you. So then you can be a support. And hopefully you'll pick up something, and you can be a supporter to that family, because again, village support doesn't have these hard set assignments. It's village. We're here to help you, and that's my goal, is to build up village and to get us back to where we need to be. I'm not going to even say where we used to be, but to get us where we need to be. So, like I said, we were in the hospital for 3 months. We had a lot of ups and downs. I did a lot of pumping. And I looked at my pumping as part of his care plan. Like, if I didn't pump, he wouldn't get better. And so I needed him to get better. I needed him to grow. I needed him to develop. I needed him to gain weight. I needed his tummy to work right. I needed him to have everything that he needed. And without having all the information that I have, I knew that my milk was extremely important. Extremely important. And so he had to have it. And I understand that everybody does not have that foreknowledge or that intuition or determination. And sometimes it can be built with some information. Like I said, I have one of my moms who's become one of my good friends. She didn't want to breastfeed. She came in and she was like, look, I'm going to just tell you right now, I don't want to do this. My husband wants me to breastfeed, so I'm going to breastfeed just because he wants me to, right? So, I need somebody to help, and since you're here to help me, then, I really appreciate you. And now she's one of my biggest supporters. I can call her and she's there. She's just amazing, right? So this wasn't her thing in the beginning. She was talking about this baby and, really just put it in the baby's mouth and gone. Well, lo and behold, she had a plethora of issues, right, with her first baby. And, but she ended up breastfeeding for 3 years with that baby. But the information I gave her was able to fuel her that she was very determined. And when I tell you she is a breastfeeding warrior, like, she did the doggone thing. I am so incredibly proud of her. She's amazing. And now she's on her second baby, and she's been breastfeeding for a year. I think it's going on 15 months. And she's doing an awesome, awesome job. So, some information, just basic information can help, with the right type of support, can fuel a mom to, come from, I don't want to do this, I'm just doing it because my husband wants me to do it, to now I'm a breastfeeding advocate, right? And that's what she's become. She is a breastfeeding advocate. She talks about breastfeeding to her friends and her network, and she's very encouraging. And I would trust her to sit in a room alone with any one of my moms. And for me, because I feel so strongly about this, and because I don't want anybody to go through what I went through, I am very, very protective of my moms. And so when I say I trust you with my moms, know that I think that you are beyond amazing. Beyond amazing. Like, I know you're not gonna say nothing stupid. I know I'm not gonna come in there and have to fight you, and I will fight you behind my moms. I will fight you behind my families, my moms, my dads, my babies, my genius babies. Oh yeah, you about to get knocked in your face. I know that's probably not a good business thing to say, but it's the truth. Okay, you will not mess with my families. This is what you're not gonna do. So I love my families. I think they are amazing. I am so incredibly proud of them. And part of the healing that I had to go through is, I call my families, they're awesome, right? So I have awesome moms and dads who birth genius. They birth genius babies, right? And they have the absolute best milk. Nobody has better milk than my families. My families have the absolute best milk, right? So with that, I couldn't be this tied to them and hold ownership of them and not then look at myself in the same light. Because I can't be this, huge screw up that was just blah, 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 and be disconnected to all this awesomeness. So now I have to see myself as this. It's contrary if I don't, right? But it makes sense that awesome attracts awesome, right? Genius attracts genius. I birthed genius. So why would I not attract those who birth genius? I attract genius because I birthed genius. I attract awesome because I am awesome, right? Yeah. So that's just a little bit about my breastfeeding story of how I got started and how I got into this work. And I would definitely love and be honored to support you and your family through breastfeeding. If you are looking for a breastfeeding supporter, if you are looking for somebody to support you once you have your baby, if you would like prenatal care, prenatal breastfeeding education, definitely connect with me. Share this, especially if you're seeing this on another platform other than Instagram. Definitely share it. Share it with and your family, those who are expecting, those who are planning not to be expecting. I would definitely be honored to work with you and your family. Again, you can find me all over social media, Lydia at Lydia O'Boy CLE. You can email me, Lydia at lydiaoboy.com, and you can find my website that has my offerings, including pricing, at bit.ly/Lydia's Resource. That's bit.ly/Lydia's Resources. All right, you guys have an awesome day. I am trying to make my way on through this traffic to get to the workhouse. So I will talk to you guys later. Have an awesome day.